Hey everyone, welcome to a real special episode of Blue Abroad Analytics Corner. Today we're dissecting the Marsh Series game versus Brisbane Lions. So let's just get straight into it because we have a heck of a lot to cover. So, first up, let's just talk a little bit about the game. For me, the game was a tale of two halves. That, old, eloquent simile that we often say. I thought in the first quarter and the second quarter as well, particularly, we really had some intent, not just with the ball at hand, but also the ball in transition. There was a lot of times where we really did look to put pressure on empty space, and that is like something that is really prevalent with Brisbane Lions. If you go back to the Analytics Corner, the Rivals video with Brisbane, one of the suggestions to beat them is to really stop space, stop them having easy balls, stop them kicking into it. They do play a very, very fast-paced game that does require a lot of ball from ground ball gets and centre clearances, and they do look to attack on the outside through the corridor and kick to space and kick to their run. That's their strength, and I thought we really stagnated that for them really well. I thought Ed Kerner particularly did a really good job on Neil. Neil was very ineffective. I was questioning my call to have him in my super coach team at that point. I thought defensively as well, they set up really well. I think one of the big takeouts for me was the difference in our ability to restart the game from a kick-in. No longer are we seeing a punt to nothing at half flank towards the wing. We're looking, and with Doc's vision, we're looking to go through the corridor. We're willing to play the extra ball in defence, in the defensive 50. They're willing to do that. A lot of good teams play this way. I was reading an article from Jeremy McGovern a couple of weeks back when I was doing my West Coast research, and he was saying that they have a drill where everyone has to touch it in defensive 50 twice before they leave it. It's a very common way to play it because it's kind of a game of chicken. You're bringing them onto you, which creates space out the back, and we utilise that space out of the back very well in the first two quarters. For me in the second half, and this is why I was probably more happier than most, is there was a massive shift in A, ball movement, B, direction of attacking plays, and C, a big one for me, how the defence structure set up. It dropped a lot deeper. It allowed Brisbane to come onto us. There was no tag in the centre bounce. The A team who were on the ball didn't appear anymore. So for me, I don't want to say there was a pre-orchestrated plan because I don't know that. But I do know for a fact that Geelong against Gold Coast did stop the contest to see what would happen if their backline had repeat entries inside 50, because they're the top of the ladder for avoiding that. So I don't know if there was something going on. For me, I really just saw the second half was give game time to other players. And I think Plowman and Marchbank, their injury kind of set the style back as well because it became a management exercise. But for me moving forward, if you look at the first two quarters and you look at that as a different game, see the Collingwood comments, it does look a very good brand of football. While that happened, we also had the VFL, and it was really good to see Willow and Mr. SPS really stand out. For me, for this game style to work, and I don't want to harp on about disposal efficiency, but it requires good disposal efficiency, and you can't argue against that. I won't allow it, because the stats are hard, that the top 12 sides in this comp, the top 10 leading ball getters, all oscillate above 60%. Great case in point, Marlion Pickett was singled out this weekend by Richmond. Even though he had 20 touches, he went at 55%, and he did turn it over quite a lot in the core corridor. And that's where we turned it over a lot in the second half, and you see what happens, particularly when you're coming up against Richmond, who score 68% of their points from turnovers. If you're turning it over 1 in 2, 1 in 3, you're going to have issues if it's your midfielders doing it. That being said, though, for me, there was a lot of takeouts. I thought we'll go into individual performances a bit later, but I thought I enjoyed in the first half running with your man. There was a lot of players who were running together in 2s and 3s. If you watch Richmond, Prestia will break out. He's got Cochin to his left. He's got Martin to his right. It's a very common way of playing the game. It's where you get that phrase, the mosquito fleet. People running together in pairs and trios really gives you something to offhand. So let's look at the players individually then. So Jack Silvani's first cab off the rank, obviously a number one. And I thought it was a fairly solid game from Jack. 13 touches, 69% disposal efficiency. There was 0 tackles there when your game's built on forward pressure. To be honest, they didn't really look to exit rebound 50. They didn't rebound 50 from his his side of the ground. But I mean, 6 marks, 1 goal, 1. I thought it was a really solid game from Jack. I think what he presents is kind of, there's a lot of things that stats don't tell you about Jack's game, especially when he's playing forward. He's always within arm's length. He applies pressure, not just in tackling, but also just by his presence. He doesn't let you just get past him. If you watch him throughout the game, particularly in the first quarter as well, he's always chasing down. He's always on the ball carrier. And them little incremental pressure acts that don't really get caught up in a stat-based game really do make a difference throughout the season when you do that. Thought it was a really solid game from Jack. I think he really does offer something that there's not many players that do. He has a really good footy IQ. There's a lot of passages of play if you watch the highlights where he literally is that link as well. He looks to play it on. He looks to bring people in and around him. He looks to spoil. He looks to knock the ball on if he can, which is really important. I think when you've got players like Betts, his ability to, thump it forward instead of going for a mark contest, all these kind of little things really will tally up at the end of the season to something great for Jack. I thought it was a really solid performance. Now, Paddy Dow, a lot of people said I was a bit harsh on him, but I'll explain why and we'll go through this and hopefully you might change your thought. I mean, one thing with Paddy is I've always been a big fan of Dow. Last year when there was a lot of knockers, I was one of the few who was backing him up statistically. So if I can back him up statistically, I can critique him statistically as well. And this is where my issue is, and then I'll get some positives. You can see that 18 touches, 39% disposal efficiency. I mean, that is, he's like the 4th best disposal getter for Carlton, and he did turn it over at the end. And if you look at the reason he turned it over, I'll explain it. In the second half, there was no runners with him. If you watch in the first half, he had a lot of runs with him so he could offload. Now, my criticism was he needs to learn to make the right decisions. And for me, it's quite hard when the midfield isn't running with you and alienate you. I thought all in all in the first quarter, it was phenomenal. His first 2 quarters were brilliant. He went at about 70%, and then his help kind of died. And you've got to understand that top players don't need help. So Dusty, he can do it on his own. And I'm not saying Dow is Dusty, but what I'm saying is I would have liked to have seen him kind of slow it down a little bit in the 3rd and 4th term. I think when teams are under the cosh, we need players to step up. It can't always be Cripps, it can't always be Walsh, it can't always be Mark. I'm not hard on him. I just know what this kid's capable of. And trust me, no one watching this show will know what he's capable of more than me, because I followed him religiously in the draft up to now and I look at his stats every day. Last year it was a slight increment and his disposal efficiency got better and there was people critiquing him. So we can't really let 39% disposal game slide. I'm sorry. It's harsh, but you can. It is an area of concern, and nowhere does Teague say, don't get indoctrinated by the numbers. He was talking about disposals, and I agree with him. I think disposals are irrelevant, how much ball you get. So your efficiency, that's important, and none of the top 8 are working at a 40% rate. Now, yes, he's got 70% of the blame goes to the team, but I know Dow has high footy IQ. And I'd imagine if you had Patrick Dow here, he would say himself he wants to get that better. For me, though, positive signs, I thought he looked to play the game well. I think in the first quarter, we've got a highlight coming up just at the end of this bit where I analyse it, and you see what Dow does well. He reads the play well. He looks to take the game on well. He's very aggressive. I'd like to see him add a bit of two-wayness. There were 0 tackles there, 2 marks, no goals. But, I mean, for me, this is a good benchmark for him because I think he really did compete well in the first half against a very, very good midfield outfit. And I think there's a lot of things, there's more positives than there is negatives. But I wouldn't be expecting us to be top 8 if I wasn't looking at individual stats. Dow had a solid game. More of the first quarter, less of the 4th for me, but it was a very good benchmark game for him. Number 3. Now this is someone that we're going to talk about a bit later in the show, but Mark Murphy, 15 touches, 80 disposal percent efficiency, 3 tackles, 3 marks, 0.0 goals. Mark is just effervescent, isn't he? And for me, his coolness, his class, his silk, his ability to hit targets is a must for Carlton Football Club. And if we look at his heat map here, look at this. This is a midfielder. This is the guy, the link, the cog. They call them in NFL moving the chains. This guy moves the chains. And you look at this beautiful spread across midfield. It's almost like a wall of just certainty. We've got the corridor of uncertainty in cricket. This is the wall of certainty in footy. He really looks to play the pass well. He looks to keep the ball moving. And this game plan needs movement. It requires forward movement at all times. It can't just stagnate. And for me, this is what he brings. You can see there, he's willing to get his hands dirty and do the dirty stuff, go down back, add that extra link. There was a few there where he went back for a kick in to alleviate the pressure. Him and Doc's ability to hit targets is really king to this game plan. And I see him playing kind of a Sam Mitchell type role in the Hawthorn 4-peat years, where he's kind of like that quarterback type player, that kind of guy who just pings passes around. And I really like that from Mark. For me, he's a very undervalued player at Carlton, and I thought it was a relatively good game. Cade Simpson, this guy's just timeless, isn't he? He's just been around for ages. 18 touches, 83% efficiency, 2 tackles, 2 marks. Probably let his man get away from him a little bit at Fremantle. That was the criticism from a lot of people. I thought this was a bit of a return to form, though. He looks solid down the back. I mean, what you see is what you get with Cade. I mean, I don't think he should be anywhere near the kick-ins at the moment. I think that should be Doc's job solely. Because for me, he did resort back to the old style of just booting it long, where Doc seems to have a bit more confidence to play the 1-2 and play it out of danger. Doc Blanchard, though, he was under the cosh for the last 2 years on his own. But it was a solid return from him. I mean, it's hard to believe this guy is as old as he is. And for me, when he's down there, you've got that steady of the ship, and there's not much really more to say about it. Next up, Mike Cruiser. It's great to see him back at Icon. It's great to see him out in a Carlton shirt and playing regular games. 26 hit-outs for Matt, did really well. 11 touches, 64% disposal efficiency, 2 tackles, 1 mark. Really enjoyed Matty Cruiser's game, and there's no secret with Matt. What you see is what you get as well with Matty Cruiser. He's a tough competitor. He's always going to win his fair share of hit-outs, give you first use. Particularly in the first quarter, he was quite dominant, and it was really enjoyable to see. For me, with Matt, I'd like to see us kind of maybe use him, and I've been floating this idea around, and I'll see what you guys think is, what about Matt doing a kind of an Nick Natanui role? I think when we get to TDK, you'll see why I talk about that. But I thought Matty Cruiser does really well in the hit-outs, and I think it would just take a little bit of pressure off him. He does look a little bit cumbersome around the ground at the moment, which is understandable. He's had a limited pre-season, and he's had his health issues, as we know. And for me, I just think if we could keep him in peak condition, I think the aim is to try and get as maximum games from him. He hasn't played 20 games for a while. And if we can get these full allotment of games, and if that means playing 60% game time, 26 disposals in a shortened game for him is really high. And that's really good, because we do win ball. And this game is a centre clearance heavy ball game. What Teague plays, we have to win ball. And for me, I'd like to see that. But I mean, it was a solid performance from Cruiser. It's what you see is what you get. It's what I expect from him. I have no massive expectations of Cruiser, because I know he doesn't let me down. He's one of them players that, you know, he's just ever reliable. Up next was Cripper. 30 touches, 67% disposal efficiency, 5 tackles, 3 marks. Probably wasn't the greatest 30 touch game, you'll see. 21 of them were handballs. He really did start to find the ball a lot when we were under the cosh as well. And that's one of the wonderful things about Cripper. He can influence the game when it's going against him. As you know, these 5 tackles just all prevalent. And let's look at the heat map. As you can see he does a lot of the work around congestion. Absolute beast in that situation. It was good as well that he popped up in the forward line. He's really, that couple of kgs he's lost, he seems to be around the ground a hell of a lot more as well, which is quite exciting for a Carlton fan. Really enjoyed his game. I think he's a key cog, and I said it a couple of weeks ago, Murphy and Cripps are key to this game style. And he showed why, particularly when we're on top, because he really stops it. There was a few hit-outs. When we get to the hit-out stats, we'll talk about it a bit more in depth. But there was a few times that, you know, we lose the hit-out, the centre clearance is about to happen for the other team, and he lays the tackle. He's a very, very good player in congestion. And this game style requires domination in centre clearances. You need him. So Mitch McGovern then. Now, he was another player who was singled out for praise by David Teague, and I agree with him. Some things that he does, stats don't tell. So let's just look at his stats first. 4 disposals, 25% efficiency, 1 tackle, 2 marks, 0.1. And if you look at his heat map, and let's talk about what he does. For me, McGovern needs the ball early. That's what he does well. He's a very good mark. He's very athletic. And for me, the entries towards him were poor. There was a few times that we totally missed him when he was 1 out. And when he's kicking, when he's on 3 blokes, he ain't going to be effective. For me, he does shepherd well. He does look to bring players in around him. And for me, that is his strength, McGovern's. I don't blame McGovern for this performance. I blame more the entries and the service he was provided. And for me, he can't do what Levi Casbolt does. Casbolt has an uncanny knack of taking marks in packs of thousands, and that's because he's played in a team that traditionally has made him do that. He's built that skill, and it's a rare skill to have because most teams don't have the entries that we've had for the last decade. For me, he will start round one, and I'd imagine the entries will be tidied up a bit when he plays a full game. Let's go to Tom de Koning now. To me, he was brilliant. 6 touches, 100% efficiency, 3 marks, 0 tackles, and he took his goal well. For me, TDK is really showing that he could put his hand up to be that forward that rotates in the ruck. I thought his ruck work was very good as well. And for me, like moving forward, this could be the closest we have to a Kernel placement in the forward line because he's so mobile, he's very good on the ground. For a tall guy, he moves like a midfielder. I really enjoy his endeavour. I really do enjoy his ability on the ground. And like for me, I think if you were pressing me for a forward line, I'd like to see him and McGovern and have Casbolt as the swingman because I think that's what you need against Richmond. You need someone to go down the back, particularly with Marchbank down. Now, he can pinch hit wherever you need him. And I think Casbolt then could be used, for me, where he's better, where he's kind of a filler. You throw him in certain positions. And that's what he had a lot of success last year. For me, de Koning is really, really impressing me. And I really enjoy his game. I think it's a very exciting time to be a Carlton fan. Liam Jones, 9 touches, 89% disposal efficiency, 3 marks. For me, it was just a Liam Jones game, wasn't it? I mean, he really looks to play loose on his man and intercept well. I think he does very well at that, and I think he's a key cog for Carlton, especially the transitional game. His ability to take an overhead mark and get rid of the ball quickly. He does very well at that. Really enjoyed Jones's game. Moving forward, he's an exciting prospect for Carlton. The Doc, the captain, it's great to have him back at it. 21 touches, 86 disposal efficiency, 1 tackle, 10 marks. Now, when we talk about rebound mid defenders, we talk about halfbacks, we talk about small defenders, people forget how good Doc is. Doc is better than all of them. Like, Doc is the best when he's on his day. And I think one thing that excites me is his penetration with his kicking. He looks to take the game on. There was a lot of times this week where he just looks to switch the play. He looks to set up the counter, and it's something that we haven't had last year, and it's something that is pivotal to Teague's game plan. Fast transition, quick ball, and Doc is your man. Particularly when you look at his kick-ins as well, he makes the right choice, and the kick-in is where we do struggle when we're under forward pressure. He's someone that just has great vision, and he's quite willing to play it out of defence. Not panic, play it out of defence. And for me, he's a valuable, and it's acquisition to Carlton because technically he is a new signing for us. And for me, it's really exciting moving forward because when he's down the back with Wheaterin and Jones, you've got a real fearsome backline there. Sam Walsh, she just gets, what can you say, 24 touches, 71 disposal efficiency, 3 tackles, 4 marks. The real modern day midfielder is old Sammy. He doesn't let you down. He does simple things well. I think sometimes he's guilty of trying to do it all himself, which I think is probably more of a testament to the people around him than himself, because at times they are quite loose. But for me, great vision. He really takes the game on well. I really enjoy him on the ball in that combination, which we'll talk about a bit later. But for me, yeah, what a footballer we've got here. This is really exciting. Here's someone who can step up against the top 8. Eduardo Betts, our number 19, 8 touches, 88% efficiency, 2 tackles, 2 marks, 2 goals. Should have been more. He was very generous, giving it away a few times. What can I say? For me, he's a player who's going to get better when you see the likes of Lockie O'Brien, when you see the likes of SPS get in, who actually look to kick over and kick deep, kick early. He needs early entry, and he showed that when the ball was in early. This guy can match up with anyone in the competition still. Took his 2 goals well. There's probably something I think is the most beautiful sight is how he plays against big guys. How he leans back into them, releases, they're off balance, he's out the back. Phenomenal performance from Eddie. It's really exciting moving forward because we have got someone now who can really complement the tools that we have in the system. Lockie Plowman. Lockie Plowman, his first half was really good. I thought 13 touches, 85 disposal efficiency, 4 tackles, 4 marks. He came back, I think, a little bit early because he had that slight knock and came back because of the injury to Marchbank, and we kind of went a bit down to pot down back with injuries and stuff. I don't think he was meant to play. You could see it affected him. But, Lockie Plowman, let's not forget, he kept Walters and Cameron to diddly squat when he played. So there's a lot of talk that him and Cameron don't work. Statistically, he was the only defender last year who stopped Cameron. And Cameron himself has said Lockie Plowman is one of his toughest matchups in the comp. So that's nonsensical. If anyone says that, that's nonsensical. Very good player, very underrated at Carlton. I don't know why people underrate him. He had a poor second half, but I mean, he was holding an injury. Come on. Jack Martin, 21, 19 touches, 74% disposal efficiency, 2 tackles, 9 marks. This guy, man, he's a good little footballer. He's old Jackie. I'm really enjoying it. It's class, it's silk. He takes the game on really well. Think he's going to be someone who only gets better in Teague's system as well. The system that Teague plays really suits his game, and that's a fast pace, go forward, go one way, go quick, go direct. He's going to be a real. I still stand by. I think he's going to be very high up in our BNF this year. And for me, if Carlton play well, this is a guy who's going to suddenly go into the stratosphere numbers-wise and skill-wise. Real good footballer. Really exciting to have him. Caleb Marchbank next, 22, 5 touches, 60% efficiency, 1 tackle, 2 marks. It was a tough game because, I mean, it started off really well, and what you see with Marchbank is what you get. He's a real assertive player down the back. The injury has really worried me, though, because we are a better team with him in there. I think there is a good argument, though. Can you play Marchbank, Plowman, Wheaterin and Jones in the same system? Because it does look like they're getting each other's way. But solid footballer, very good footballer. I hope he gets well soon, because a fit Marchbank creates competition whether he plays or not. The Wheaters, 8 touches, 75% disposal efficiency, 2 tackles and 3 marks. As always, Wheaterin, very good. Definitely think he's a smoky for the All-Australian. He's really building his talent, really building his skill level really high, and really owning that number 1 pick in the draft. Really enjoyed Wheaterin's game. Think he's real assured, and the fact he's got Doc on the outside, Newman, Simpson, good ball users, I think it really helps him as well, because it's going to be an exciting prospect. We could see maybe the combination of McGovern and Hearn in Doc and Wheaterin, and I reckon it's better on its day. Really excited about seeing them two just develop together. Doc on the outside of Wheaterin is a dream come true. Nick Newman, 19 touches, 74 disposal efficiency, 2 tackles and 8 marks. Another good game from Newman, and for me, one thing is his defensive positioning can go a bit awry, but when you get the ball and you use it as well as he does, it doesn't really matter with some of the stock we've got. And for me, it's a really exciting thing, because transitionally, Doc and him just add another dimension to Carlton, because they both take the game on. They're both willing to go with the ball at hand. Really enjoyed his game, and I think against a team like Richmond, where the only way to beat Richmond is play their game style, pivotal in that game plan. Zach Fisher, he's fast becoming my boy, his old Zach. I'm really enjoying the fact he's stepping up every week. 16 touches, 81 efficiency, 3 tackles, 3 marks, no goals. And for me, there is a case in point, no goals. And if we look at his heat map here, he does his best work when he is down in the midfield. I like to see him on the wing, because I think he really does it, and floating through the middle. A lot of talk from people that he's not big enough to play in the midfield, but okay, well, I ask you this. Prestia plays in the middle. He's pretty good. He's not the biggest guy. Sam Mitchell played in the middle. Again, not the biggest guy. Tom Mitchell plays in the middle. Not the biggest guy. Doesn't really matter. If you've got the skill and the nous and the ability to slip people, it doesn't really matter the size you are. And Zach Fisher is case in point. He's very tenacious for his body size as well. I mean, he was the only other player other than Cripps to lay a tackle to stop a centre bounce, which says quite a lot about Zach's mentality. He plays the game the right way. He's aggressive. His intent is there. Very important for David Teague's game style. Cammy Paulson up next. 5 touches, 40% efficiency. And let's look at his heat map. For me, there was not much to go on. It was a very shortened game. He only played a bit of a quarter. For me, I still say the same. I can see the logic in playing him down there. I think he needs to go to the VFL and really own this position. For me, if I was Nick Austin, I think his KPI this year would be trying to get up to 18 touches, which he did the other week at Fremantle. He got 15. Get around that mark, use it well, and really get these tackle numbers going and really there. Because his positioning's not so bad. I can see the grounding there. He's got the ability to take the game on and the pace. It's just a little bit of just honing that. We've got to remember Jones didn't become a fantastic backman straight away. I think he's got time on his side. I want to see him in the VFL and really hone his craft and really put pressure on Newman, really put pressure on Cade. There is a spot there with Cade, you would imagine, playing his last year. So really try and take that opportunity. to me, there's a lot of players who there's opportunity at this club now to really break into the team. And he's one of them, and I'll look forward to seeing his progression and hopefully proving everyone wrong. Jack Nunes, 20 touches, 45% disposal efficiency, no tackles, 4 marks, 1 goal, 2. Jack Nunes, first couple of quarters he was really good, and then to me he does have that run home to mama status of just boot the ball long, and everyone was guilty of that in the second half, and he was probably more guilty of it than most. To me, it is a shame, it is a detriment to him, because speaking to people at St Kilda who actually know about football, they're not just slagging off an ex-player, that was their issue with him, wasn't his efficiency, because if you actually go through his stats, the only thing that is AFL good or above is his efficiency. So this mad talk about kicking and handballing, it's not there. It's not there because he's actually in the upper percentile. But their issue was he never gives you more than a 6 out of 10 game, and that was the feedback I got. I watch a lot of St Kilda, we've got to remember as well, my wife's an avid St Kilda fan. And I'd agree with that. He doesn't seem to have a ceiling above 6 out of 10. It seems to be that stagnant. I enjoy it, but to me, I'd rather see Lockie O'Brien in that position at the moment. I think Nunes is just serviceable. I think O'Brien does have the ability to go out of a 7, 8, 9, 10 game. But, I mean, that being said, decent metres gained as well. It was an okay performance. I'm not a big fan of us resorting to just boot the thing long, particularly against Richmond. These teams thrive on turnover. The game has gone so far now. It's all forward pressure, ground ball gets, and transition, and the ability to turn the ball over. And to me, it's just a disaster waiting to happen when he does that. If he can alleviate that out of his game, he does a lot of nice things. Ed Kerno next. This guy is underrated. 20 touches, 75 efficiency, 3 tackles, 7 marks, and a goal. Decent gum shield as well. For me, yeah, I really enjoy his game, and I'm excited about him because for me, he's the best tagger in the competition. And one thing he does is when he tags, he influences the game as well with the ball. Very rare. Look at Jack Steele at St Kilda. When he tags, his disposal numbers go down. Matt the board, everything goes down. This guy's still stayed the same. Valuable cog. He's going to win your football matches. Cripps and Walsh get the plaudits. Kerno does the groundwork. Big fan of Ed, and very much needed. Gibbo next. 13 touches, 69% disposal efficiency, 4 tackles, 2 marks and 2 goals. To me, I did say this in the previews at the start of the year, watching him work with Betts, he's got a high footy IQ, so he's going to really soak up that knowledge. I really am starting to buy into him playing in the forward line. Remember last year, statistically, his last 8 games, he was on course to do a Papley, to do better numbers than him, and there was a lot of talk that we need Papley. For me, he's showing the signs that he could be our version of Papley, someone who can really influence the game, really puts good pressure on, he looks to play people in and around it. Really enjoy Gibbons' game and I'm excited. Levi Casboe, our beautiful utility, 10 touches, 90 efficiency, 4 tackles, 6 marks and a goal. For me, wherever Levi is, he gives you a job. And that is valuable at the club. And I think, for me, I really enjoy him wherever he is. I want to see him be that one man up all the time. I want to see him in a position where we're not going to just stagnate him in the forward line. I want to see him be able to go down back and just disrupt play, because he disrupts game styles as well, which is really exciting. And one thing I am impressed about is the last 2 games he's really cleaned up his disposal. He could be a valuable cog, and he's gone under the radar for me. Really enjoyed his game. Setterfield, 23 touches, 57% efficiency, 3 tackles, 5 marks and a goal. For me, I'm enjoying his movement. I really do enjoy his movement. Let's start with some positives. He's starting to acquire the ball. He's a real tall marking midfielder as well. These things are in vogue in the AFL comp. But one issue is I'm not seeing the cleanness that I saw last year, and I want to see him use the ball just a little bit smarter, handball it off a little bit quicker. He looks like he's caught in 2 places at the time, but there is no getting away that he is a very good footballer. For me, my only question mark at the moment is I'm quite sad he hasn't stepped up to the plate against Fremantle. He didn't really step up when there was an opportunity to. Still confident he will do though. But, I mean, he's a valuable cog. I mean, them marks there, 2 of them were intercept. That's huge for Carlton moving forward. So let's look, that's the players. Let's look at the contested stuff. So, as you can see here, this first slide here is everyone who competed at a centre bounce. See a lot of reds there. They did dominate that aspect of the game. But if we actually look at it closely, we can actually see who wins the most. So, You can see here, Cripper does really well. He entered the most. And one thing about him, 6 of them losses were actually stopped by a Cripper tackle. So for me, Cripper always should start on the ball in the centre. Now, some interesting ones here I want us to take notes of. Ed Kerner, for me, look at that, 78% when he enters a contest. And that's because he stops the danger man. If you watch him, he really does influence the contest really well. So for me, looking at this, I'd like to see Walsh, Kerner and Cripper start. And I want to see Murphy on the outside, because Murphy, when he received a handball from the contest, went at 100% hitting up a target in front of him by foot. Something he does, he hits targets. I think Dow should play that position as well. I think if Dow has a bit more space, a bit more time, it really helps. And I think Fisher as well, you look at it here, when he pinch hits there, he does really well as well. Casbolt and De Koning really impressed me. Do you know what I mean? They really did do well when they were there. Cruiser, that is about AFL average when you contest as many as he does. So for me, it's a really exciting time to be a Carlton fan when we look at this. So what I wanted to look at here was just, I think this is really important to Teague's game style, and this is just showing you where we go well. So if you look here now, the ball has come in, and you can see here, if we just look at some players, that we've got Doc here, and you've got Marchbank here, and you can see that Ed Kerner is going to intercept the ball here. Now, I think what's really important is when we're watching this, and we move forward, is watch how quickly transition happens. So you can see that these guys here, and look, already we're looking to transition. And I think this is really important. Now you look here, that we're going to see how quickly these boys just back Ed to take the transition. And there you are, like you can see, he's off. He's gone. He's gone. Now you can see here that they're caught in two minds, their backline. And this is why moving the ball quickly goes well. And you can see Ed here, he's going to spot the runner of Marchbank, who has really made himself available. And look at this here, this little passage of play. You can see now, look, everyone is starting to shift, look, to go forward. You can see Ed's laid it off, but he's already looking to move into the space. And it's about attacking space, and it's how you direct teams. And you can see here, look, Murph here, look, quick handball. And you can see players working together. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about, trios. You've got players here. You could do an overhead handball there. Do you know what I mean? And you can see what's happening here is that players are really starting to compete to each other. And you can see this passage of play is beautiful here. Now you can see that this kick here is kicking into space. He's kicking into this hollow here. And you can see here, this is absolute exceptional work from Dow. You can see there that Archie sets himself, gets his hands in the way. And look at this there, this awareness. And you're going to see now, look, players here, look, helping him. Look, Marchbank calling for it. There's a little outlet ball there. He sells the dummy. And look at this now. Players trying to maraud into space. People backing up, you can see. He's got Walsh here. See Cripper just ahead of him. You can see that. Oh, JSOS is just there as well. Look at this. JSOS presents well. Takes a good mark. And you can see, look, here we're out now. And look, the back line here. Look at all the space here. Look, this space here, and this space wins you games. Because when you move the ball quickly, you've got space to run into. And when you've got people to run into space, it creates space for other players. And you can see here now, look, this guy here is just caught in two minds. Because of the space, someone has got to put pressure on the kick. And you can see he's drawn to it. Gibbons is out. Casbolt's there. And look at this here. Eddie, look at this little bump here. I just want you to get a load of this. This is phenomenal effort from Eddie. Look at this little bump here. Look at that. See you later. And it's keeping on running as well. Look, last year we were guilty a lot of times that people would just stop running, these two. They've carried on the run. Eddie takes a very good mark. Fumbles it a little bit. And now look, you can see here, look. Levi, eyes to keep some space, looking for the bump. Eddie, look, looking up. He hasn't looked at the ball until the last minute. Dinks it, and you can see there, look, what I was talking about, keeping on running. What's great here as well, look, McGovern's found some space as well. So quick, and it's an easy goal for Carlton Football Club. And you can see this is what fast transition play does. Look at this here, look, hardly anyone back. For the first time in a while, look, Carlton are outnumbering their opposition. And you can see there, look, great work as well off the ball by Jack. Jack was just outside defensive 50, and he's popped up there. And you can see, look, the goal goes in. It's a very good goal. And for me, that is what I'm talking about from Carlton. This quick ball movement. is really pivotal to the game plan. It's a really exciting time. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope to see you throughout the week. Every year, every game now, we're going to do a real in-depth one. This was a little bit longer than usual. I look forward to seeing you this season. Please like and subscribe. Go Navy Blues.